Hey y'all, hope you've had a very good Wrath month. I know I sure have. I plan to be working pretty hard on my subscriber special these next couple months, and I'm really excited about that. Anyway, it's been a pretty satisfactory month for new releases, so let's just go ahead and knock a few of them out. Please sit back and enjoy this latest batch of notable tracks and singles from July 2023. Well, this came out of nowhere. Alright, let's rewind back to 2009, wherein Glasser made her debut as one in a wave of forward-thinking indie-tronica artists at the time. And like many in her field, she never quite lived up to the hype that her initial output suggested, only pushing out the occasional release over the past 14 years. And yet, she has returned again, and dear lord, this new direction of hers has me so intrigued. Her latest single, Drift, is mesmerizing and kind of a banger. She's always worn her The Knife influences on her sleeve, and you can certainly hear that on this track, with her nearly extraterrestrial vocals cascading over the sonic landscape of sharp, spiky synths. But there are also fragments of an independent personality peering over the edges, seen especially in the organic nature of these strings. Subtle at first, but swelling to some lovely dimensions by the end. Above all though, there's a bit of a morose nature at its core, with the lines, "What a good life, except for all those times when you want to die," making up the crux of its chorus. But as all this is scattered over those pulsing dance rhythms and the aforementioned textures that never leave me disinterested, perhaps all this might not be so bad after all.
Every day I feed it. Every day I feed it. Every day I need you. Every day I feed it. Every day.
You know, regrettably, I don't think I cover a whole lot of neo-soul on my channel. I should change that because there's some really cool stuff going on in that sphere. Enter Jamila Woods, an artist who is primarily a poet with work centering on Black identity and feminism, but who also dabbles in the occasional music release here and there. Tiny Garden is the lead-off single for her upcoming record, and man, what a great first impression. I just really love the idea of this newfound relationship described as a tiny garden, something that needs a whole lot of commitment and tenderness to bloom into its greatest potential. And the way the lines trade off on this chorus feels like she's having a conversation with herself. It's an affirming, positive tune, true, but there's always a hint of fear with unfamiliar situations, and there's no shame in picking oneself up from uncertainty. It's all about Woods herself, though. The way she navigates through these lines is absolute liquid. The whole song is so absolutely smooth and comforting, but also replete with some pretty solid hooks along the way. Duendita also supplies a bridge here, and my lord, her deep alto vocal delivery is just butter, I swear. Easily one of the coziest songs I've come across all year. Neo Soul is just like that. With that last song, Julie Byrne's album, and now a new set of singles from Spelling, looks like the ethereal music girlies have really been serving this month. And hell yeah for that. If you somehow aren't familiar with art pop enchantress Spelling at this point, get familiar? The Turning Wheel is one of the most creative albums I've heard in recent years, and this duo of singles, essentially reimagined versions of past songs of hers, only further this vision. With a twist, of course. The Kate Bush comparisons were downright unavoidable with their previous record, but she's doing something entirely her own nowadays. Where the previous version of Cherry, then called Choke Cherry Horse, was minimal and folky, this version is graceful, colorful, magnificent. Her production chops are notably improved, with more of a psychedelic, even soulful landscape, making for an endlessly interesting composition for sure. And tied together with the lyrics about spiritual curiosity that balloon to greater emotions as it progresses, you really get the sense that this is a song with a fuller life breathed into it, an excellent testament to how our art can grow with us over time. Above all else though, damn, this is cool.
Do you know the history of the trench coat, what it represents and who it's for? What I want to know is who would want a coat so close to the floor.
I briefly mentioned this in the past, but yeah, although I've loved the genre my whole life, I've felt in recent years that I'm maturing out of that typical post-punk sound, which is probably why Yardak's debut album from last year did absolutely nothing for me. I could only tolerate those cookie-cutter punk rhythms with down-tuned guitars and full bass for only so long. I need a little something more, damn it. And I guess Yardak heard my complaints, because they're clearly trying something new with the Trenchcoat Museum, and to be honest, kinda nailing it. That Blender sound is now replaced with more fuller textures, a vibrant dance-along tempo, eccentric samples left and right, all stretched across 8 minutes of anxious ramblings about, you guessed it, trench coats. And, I mean, their albums certainly tiptoed along the line of dance punk, but here, they're fully crossing over. This is LCD Soundsystem-esque dance music if I've ever heard it, and it's as good a time as that comparison suggests. This single, along with the recent output of acts like Viagra Boys and Model Actress, have me curious if a dance punk revival is in the cards, and let me tell you, I would totally welcome that. I kinda hope they stay along this path, but, you know, I'm also eager to hear any other types of sonic experimentation they might have hiding under their sleeve.
The disease, you give me chills. I've had it with the chills. I'm nothing, you are nothing, we are nothing with the pills. I'm empty to.
Y'all can keep your Olivia Rodrigo. Big Thief here is giving us a whole dang empire. All jokes aside, yeah, big surprise. Another smash from these indie rockers. Now, I've been a fan of these guys for a while, and though I really did enjoy their album from last year, I've also listened to their whole back catalog, and man do I yearn for the days when they delve into some more darker textures of sound and content. Well, luckily for me, we've got that in Vampire Empire. Kinda. It's more like a melding of both sounds, playing with the country angle they've been enamored with lately with just the right amount of grittiness where it matters most. And boy is this song gritty, expounding the very ugly details of a relationship at its bitter end, the spare guitars and shabby percussion seemingly dangling from their very own loose stitches. But man, it's all about Adrienne Lenker here, her delivery dripping with intense anxiety throughout, but certainly at that utterly breathless climax. I'm just so enamored. I don't know, this is one of those obsessed from play number 1 tunes, and I can't see myself falling off of this one anytime soon. Let's see what happens. Another Roundup, another fiercely abrasive industrial tune that I'm sure will only appeal to me and like 3 other people watching this. So from my understanding, Sprain are an act that initially got their start as a slowcore band, but have been steadily easing their way into post-hardcore and noise rock territory in recent years. I'm gonna have to check out their back catalog because if Privilege of Being is any indication, this is an exceedingly fascinating blending of these two genres. Actually, this feels more like an ambient piece than anything else, led with little by way of actual quote-unquote music as we understand it, just some light strings and melodic moaning under this intense wall of sound. And as for this, well, it's rough, intense, even kind of scary. I won't lie, there are a couple moments here that definitely have me flinching in my chair every single time. But then, the harshness unexpectedly makes way for stunning organic beauty at its climax. It's such an interesting decision. Also an interesting decision is pushing this track as a single in the first place, as it feels more like an extended interlude or an introduction to some more fleshed out idea on the actual album. But I guess since I'm now more than ever extremely eager to check out this album once it drops, they're probably doing all the right things. Looks like we're going back to that 2009 mindset mentioned at the start because apparently we gotta start caring about Animal Collective again. Now, I actually considered covering Anco's lead-off single for their new album, Defeat, last month, but, well, with its multiple segments strewn across 22 minutes, that felt a bit too intimidating for me at the time. And I'm really glad I held off on this because Soul Capturer might be better? Too early to say for sure, but it's an immediate sticker, no less. This really feels like a return to old Anco form, with these tribal drum patterns piercing through a thick soundscape of psychedelic guitars and quirky sound effects, not to mention some really pretty melodies. I'm sure a major complaint for many with this one is a lack of a clear-cut progression across its nearly 6-minute length. But that's the thing. Animal Collective have always been about atmosphere building through the layering of soft textures to the point where it hardly feels noticeable. There are chord changes, variations of sonic elements, and the mixing of such. The bass really comes into its own at that second half, for example. But it's all just subtle enough that the journey feels less like an uphill climb and more like a casual trek through a wide open plain. And considering that this is only the single edit we're working with at this point, I have a sense that this plain will open up to even wider proportions come album release. And that's it. Another month in the bag. Feel free to leave a comment and let me know if any of these are up your alley or if there's anything else you've discovered this month that you enjoyed. Take care. Please don't ask me about Barbie. And I'll see you next time.